Our first house nearly never got built. My wife was so bent on helping the builder. Woman, I said, leave that poor man alone and make us some coffee. Not that kind you've been buying either. Instant Maxwell House coffee. Red jar, good to the last drop. Maxwell House. The instant that tastes like coffee. Be a good little Maxwell housewife, and we'll be happy here for a long time.
Maxwell House Coffee. Instant and ground.
Doors open this Friday, so come on down to the barbecuer. Oh, shit!
Felt like the pre-zero conversation. That was a good opener.
Oh man, those are so good. Have you watched all of them, or is that the only one you've seen?
Yeah, I haven't seen all of them.
There's like four that I've seen, and one of them is great. They're like we were out on our honeymoon on our yacht, their sailboat or something, and he's like, listen, I'm captain, you crew, they're so ridiculous. What an ad campaign, But it's funny because to like us, it's like be a good little Maxwell housewife, like in our zeitgeist when we live. But like back then, it was like be a Maxwell housewife because women wanted to be housewives. So if you just phrase it with a little different inflection, it was more desirable.
I know. I keep making the mistake of going on Twitter and saying that it was a mistake to ever let women out of the kitchen, forgetting that my wife is also on Twitter and keeps coming behind me saying, "I keep telling you, I'll stay home." I'm like, no, not you. You're acceptable for the workplace. I mean, all these other ones.
Oh man. Yep, so I'm a little all over the place today. I'm getting ready to process chickens this morning.
I was so I sent a couple of them in our group chat of like random ass stuff that I found in my phone as I'm going through trying to clear out space because I've been getting notifications that my iCloud storage is full for like the last. So I found one that was from like middle of the year last year. It was like May of last year. Revlon was all excited about the first female CEO ever, and then literally a month later, it was Revlon files for bankruptcy. Like, I'm sure it wasn't entirely her fault, but at the same time, it's hard not to just see those two headlines side by side. Oops.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look great, and it is almost like, hey, look, I mean, like they must have known they were going bankrupt, like at that point, right? So it's like, hey, let's go ahead and put a woman in there, but it's kind of like definitely scapegoats them, you know what I mean? Give them an impossible task.
Yeah, it's like you can't blame that on her because if she's only been in the role for a month, clearly things are going down a very bad path before she. Yeah. Like, did they give her all the specifics of what was going on before she took the role, or was she just excited to be named CEO and she's like, hell yeah, I get to be the first female CEO, not realizing that they were just setting her up to like take the fall for the whole thing going straight to shit?
There's a lot of stuff that happens that it's just unfortunate because you get situations like that where, like I said, I don't necessarily think it's that woman's fault, but it doesn't make women in general look good. So it's things like affirmative action, right? Like when you have like affirmative action in a college, then you could have the smartest person at school could be a black kid, but everyone's going to assume he's there because of affirmative action. You know what I mean? Even if he's the smartest. So shit like that just really fucks over people who actually do work hard or actually are smart, because it puts that seed of doubt in everyone's mind, at that point.
Well, it's like did you see I don't know if we played the clip of it on Friday or not, the clip of the female baseball player, like the first female NCAA baseball player. She plays for Brown University, and she got to throw out the first pitch at a Boston Red Sox game last week, and she missed very badly, like very, very badly, like a good 2-3.
Is she a pitcher?
Well, supposedly she was a pitcher in in high school, but I'm assuming that was playing softball. I don't know. If she was a high school baseball pitcher and she missed the plate that badly, I get it. She's wearing blue jeans and she's not in baseball gear for throwing out the opening pitch. But at the same time, a lot of that is arm motion, not, the rest of it. So just, hitting the catcher with the ball should be a pretty basic task, especially if you were a former pitcher. And she missed by like 3 feet. Like, why? Well, just a bit outside. And, but her sole achievement as the first female NCAA baseball player is they let her pinch hit at the end of a game, and the pitcher threw an absolute meatball, and she grounded out to first. So she's career 0 for 1 with a ground out to first. The whole thing is it's a publicity stunt. So then it sets it up so that if at some point in the future there was actually a woman that was good enough to legitimately play college baseball, nobody's going to take her seriously because everybody's going to see, oh, well, it's kind of the Futurama episode where Leela gets to be the pitcher for the New York Mets and beans everybody and makes a joke out of the first female, Blurns ball player. And then,
oh yeah, they had some clever name for it. I can't remember what it was. Something about beaning, right? It had something with beans in it.
Yeah, because she beamed everybody. And but then there was another one that was mad at her because she was giving a bad name to women in the sport because all the legitimate players are now going to be viewed as a sideshow act like she is. And it's that's the same thing. You see it all the time. And Vanderbilt had a female kicker several years ago, and they put her in for an extra point. So she could become the first woman to ever score in a college football game. Not the first woman to score with a college football player. That's happened plenty. But to score in a college football game. And she just kicked an extra point. Vanderbilt was playing Tennessee in a blowout game. Vanderbilt had no chance of winning. And nobody on the Tennessee defense rushed at all. They just let her have a free kick. And she still barely got it over the crossbar. And then at some point later on in the season, they let her do a kickoff, and she barely got it down the field. And they claimed that it was intentional. It was like a squib kick. She wasn't actually trying to kick it through the end zone. She was supposed to kick it 20 yards short. You're just making it a joke for anybody that comes later.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. At a major league baseball thing, it's pretty far from the pitcher's mound to the catcher's thing, right? It's bigger than the baseball diamond I played on in 4th grade, right?
Yes.
Okay. So because I'd be man, let's say they sent me out there for the first pitch, you're in front of however many millions of people, right? So that's got to be kind of nerve-wracking. But it's a good distance. Is it 80 feet?
60. It's
60?
90.
Oh.
Yeah, 90 feet to the bases. It's 60. I can't remember what it is exactly. It's 60 feet and 60 something feet.
I could throw a baseball 60 feet. I get to thinking, I'm oh my God, would I embarrass myself and even be able to make it to the mound? I can make a baseball 60 feet. Okay. I felt like it was further than that.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. I got to embarrass myself horribly.
I mean,
I wasn't a pitcher or anything though.
To be fair, she did a hell of a lot better than Anthony Fauci, but
yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of, the most recent one I actually watched. Because it's always funny they send all these olds or just people who aren't athletes out there to do the opening pitch. And it just seems like an odd thing. Cause it's nobody can even make it near the catcher half the time. It seems it's a tall order. I mean, pitching a baseball without practicing is it's tough. It's tough to hit that strike zone.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, Fauci, it looked like he got caught on his chin and dribbled it over towards the first baseline. I just remember the big deal that was made over Obama and the first the first pitch that he threw out, and he was like very limp wristed and just kind of like two bounced it up there, noodle armed, and everybody compared that to like George W. throwing out the first pitch after 9/11 and everything, which George W. was he was a baseball owner for a while too. Like he had a little bit of baseball knowledge to him, but he came out after and I guess, he probably had practiced a little bit to make sure that he was going to do it. But, he came out in that opening pitch that he threw out after 9/11 and everything. He just threw like a perfect strike right down the middle, like, being the dude's dude. And then then they would run the side by sides of Bush doing that, and Obama like limp wristing and double or two bouncing it up there.
Should have had Michelle do the pitch. Am I right?
probably would have had a little more muscle behind it.
She's got the mustard on that ball.
She's got those very well built shoulders. I wish she could.
Beats her glove a couple times, spits in it.
Gives it a full.
She's got a big old dip in.
Gives it a full wind up.
Fuck yeah! Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Fuck yeah! Yeah, I saw on I think the Twitter, someone said something like they were offering $1 million for anybody who come up with a picture of Michelle pregnant, and I was like, oh fuck, that's something. I guess you mentioned it. That's really the tell, huh?
Well, and AI, with the way AI stuff is, there were a lot of you would see a lot of pictures that seemed fairly convincing until you looked at them and realized that's like considerably older Michelle and Barack than what they would have been at the time of the pregnancy of their supposed children.
Supposed children. Speaking of AI, so I guess you could say I had a negative experience with AI this last weekend. For like my day job, I install like cameras in vehicles and stuff as a part of my job. And a lot of these new cameras, on the box it says they're AI. And I'm like, whatever, everything's AI. I didn't put much thought in it. I've installed hundreds of them with no issues. But this particular company I was installing them for, that when they ride around the trucks, they have not only a driver, but usually 2 passengers in the truck as well. And they were having issues with these cameras sending alerts. And I'm like, what do you mean alerts? Because usually alerts happen when there's like a car accident. And they're like, no, these cameras, they're AI. They're supposed to, they send back if they see cell phones, if they see smoking, if they see, and so the issue is there's a passenger in the car, pulls out their cell phone, and it alerts because it thinks the driver's on their cell phone. But they were saying like, if somebody like strokes their beard, it sends an alert that they're smoking. If somebody yawns, it sends an alert that there's a tired driver, and it's been causing me problems because I'm having to try to figure out a way to have these cameras not pick up the passenger. But I was just like, oh my God, that's crazy, A, that it does all that. And then B, it's funny that it's not quite good enough to do it very well, so it picks up all the other bullshit. The driver who drives around with a Black and Mild hanging out of his mouth has been causing problems. But the dude's like, but really, it's like we get all these false alerts and realize just no one's wearing seatbelts. So that's their issue. But yeah, I was getting very, at first, up until now, I'm like, whatever, AI, fuck it. Yeah, like there's some scary shit, but it is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. But now it's directly affecting my life, and I'm pissed off.
As if it's not bad enough that they spy on us everywhere else. Now they're going to spy us in our vehicles as well.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I need, is the government monitoring how much of my drive to work I spend actually playing on Twitter as opposed to looking at the road. I can't remember where we were coming back from Rural King on Saturday, and Stephanie was yelling at me. She was like, would you look at the road? I was like, I drive by feel. It's like, even if I'm not playing on my phone, I'm not looking at the road. I'm looking at everything else. It's like, I drive by feel. Like if I feel the rumble strip on the, on the side, then I know there's a problem. I can kind of gauge how close to the middle I am. I don't need to look at the road.
You hear the distinctive sound of a bicycle being run over, to veer back over to the left, Yeah, it is amazing how much of driving is just subconscious, though. You know what I mean? Like, especially once you've been doing it for a couple of decades, it's like you just end up getting where you need to go. Oh, come on, who's ever done that, Wayne? I've certainly done that on a Frisbee with a boat trailer behind me. Never, never done anything like that. Oh man.
I think it was when they were younger, the kids and I were we were going home to my parents. And I've driven that so many times, and most of it's just like open highway. And so I was just like driving with my knees and eating and stuff and not paying attention. They're like, "You need to put your hands on the wheel." I was like, "I've been driving this whole trip without my hands on the wheel since before you were born." Like, shut up. I know what I'm doing here.
What happened with the F1 race?
I don't know. I don't watch Formula One unless F1 means something else.
I assume that's what he's talking about. I appreciate it, but I don't really go out of my way to watch it, I guess. I appreciate the car. I really like a lot of stuff about auto racing. Like, I like cars. I like driving fast. I like all that, but watching races, it's just so boring to me. Going to a race is a good time. I wish I try to get into it like as a sport. Like, I've got friends who are like, they know all the details and like the equivalent of the playoffs, whatever it is for racing, like they know all that stuff and who's on what team. And I don't know. I just can't get into that shit. But I wouldn't mind going and watching a little bit here and there and just having a good time at the event.
And say I do really enjoy going to races. I've never been to a NASCAR race. I've gone to a bunch of like drag races, like the what's the NHRAA races, you know what I'm talking about, the National Hot Rod. Like, I've been to some races, some of the like professional drag races. I've gone to some of the like semi-pro or like minor league dirt car races. Those are really fun. Those are a lot of fun. So like, I've been to, I guess Louisville has a speedway that I've seen some like they weren't NASCAR, but they were very fast cars going way faster than what I would probably be comfortable with. And it's cool. Like, that's a neat experience. But yeah, I can't sit and watch that shit on TV. It's
a dad thing to do. Put racing on and then nap in the recliner and then just yell at the kids and they try to change the channel.
My granddad would do that with golf. It's like,
no.
What's entertaining about this? Like, why are we watching golf? Can we watch like literally anything else? I'm like 12 years old, just drank 2 Mountain Dews, and I'm falling asleep.
Watching golf's the worst. Played it a couple times. I see how people get into it.
I suck. I mean, you throw a baseball at me 80 miles an hour, I will put it wherever you want. You set a golf ball on a tee in front of me, it's not going anywhere. It's going to dribble like 6 inches out in front of me. Or one time I
hurt my wrist. Smack it into the ground. Ah, fuck.
One time I lined up and I hit it and it went that way. Like, I don't even know how. Like, I hit it swinging this direction, and instead of going this direction, it went that way. I'm like, I don't even know how that's physically possible. And the only reason we knew it went that way is because there was a little pond over there and we heard it splash immediately. Like, it just went whoosh, straight in the pond. Like, I'm not good at this. I actually am decent on like the mid-range and short game, but I can't drive for shit. Like, that's not. I
like going to mini golf. That's fun.
I like drinking. That's something that we do a lot of anytime I've been golfing. I'm really good at that. If there was like a professional drinking league for golf, I could probably be pretty competitive.
There probably is. If you fucking look hard enough.
Apparently, there's a Mexican in the top 3 in Formula One. So now,
are you sure you're not confused that he's a Spanish guy? Spanish and Mexican isn't always the same thing. And
there are a lot of Spaniards in Formula One. There's a lot of foreigners in that. So
I mean, I'm not doubting him. I'm not trying to come off as like sounding like racist or anything. I just didn't know racist. Racist. It's like you seen the South Park where they go to like Mexico's like NASA, like their space program. I feel like there's Formula One, something like that. Sorry, I'm being unnecessarily mean. I'm sure he's a great racer. Okay. No, hold on. Let me bring it around to reality. I was just being stupid. I'm sorry, Carlos. So when you go to the horse races, all the jockeys are Mexican fellas. Is it because they're like 4'11" and weigh 95 pounds that they're also using them in Formula One races?
Probably. I'm sure.
I could buy that.
I'm sure the that's something that's always confused me about NASCAR is from time to time you'll have like a really fat NASCAR driver that's really good. Like, how much shit did they have to take out of the car to make up the difference for how much extra weight he's adding to it? Like,
I don't think about how much better he'd be if he dropped 40 pounds.
right?
You know, get a few more MPHs out of that straightaway.
Apparently he is Mexican.
You know, with a name like that sounds Mexican.
Old Wayne says the drivers get weighed with their cars. So can they take stuff out of the car to compensate for?
Because I assumed that the cars would be very strictly like it cannot be below a certain weight or something. You know, so they're saying, oh, if you're heavy, you get to reduce weight in your car. That seems odd.
Remember, they're really strict with like the specs on those cars. Remember, I don't know, it's been several years ago now. I guess I was probably in high school or college. Ford came out with that new Taurus, the one that was so fucking hideous, but it was like an amazing NASCAR racing car. And they kept getting disqualified because they were like a centimeter too short. And so part of the reason why they were so good was because they had just a little bit less drag over a centimeter or something. But it was some minute dimension on like on the hood and the roof with the curvature of it that they started disqualifying them because they weren't exactly, or they were just a touch out of spec. And so then Ford had to go back and like redesign the whole thing. And then they were like middle of the pack again after that. It was like, that feels like cheapening the sport. Like if you can make your car better than everybody else, then it's on them to catch up. It's not on you to come back down to their level.
So two different schools of thought on this, right? So if you're looking for overall driver skill as the goal of this competition, then it's like you need like the cars to all be exactly the same. Then it's coming down to driver skill. But if you allow some sort of variation in the cars, then you allow it to come down to like team skill, right? The skill of that driving team. What can the mechanics do? What can they tweak on the car? What can the driver work with? And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but they're two different games, you know, totally. Because when you go with stuff that's a little more open, you get very interesting things. Okay, so what was like the 70s, I think, when the Ford GT came out? It was like Ferrari was just slaying every year. Ferrari, because they had this like amazingly tuned car in this, you know, in this package, and it was winning every year. So Ford says, well, we're just going to put the biggest motor we can on the lightest chassis we can, and we're not going to worry about any of the finesse. And then they started winning every fucking year, just stomping it. Even though you could claim, well, the Ferrari was a nicer, more finely tuned, better car, Ford was just, you know, but they were all within the rules of the game. They might have made some tweaks to the rules, and that's why now, like, Formula One is like all the exact same cars, you know. But it's a very different game that way. And, you know, so I think it just depends on what kind of game you want to play or view, you know. But that's why you can have different leagues that have different rules. But it's, you know, I can see the benefit to both. It's either, are we going for best possible driver skill, or do you want a little more free form? Like, hey, you just figure out the best method to get you across that line the fastest and you win, you know?
Well, and when you think about it from that perspective, like if you're adding a insane amount of horsepower and with you know, minimal maneuverability, you probably got the best driver because he's got to contain all of that and keep it on the track, you know. So
well, what was funny about it is the Ferraris by the end of the race, you know, because they're so finely tuned and excellent, would start having mechanical issues because they were working so hard. They were getting the most bang out of their buck out of that car. Where the GT, it was barely fucking pushing it. So they wouldn't have like it was easier in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not disagreeing with you about the driver. I really don't know on that note. But yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it was easier because you had that big old, it was like, whatever, this car's barely working. So they weren't breaking down, they weren't having, they weren't having to pit as much, shit like that. It was, it's funny. Wayne was talking about the cheating NASCAR. We were talking about the other day, and this might have had something to do with what you were saying about the body of the Ford. But yeah, he says they have it's like a silhouette. It's like a big metal silhouette they bring out, and the car has to match that silhouette perfectly. And so he was talking about like when they come to do the silhouette, they bring a different car, have them check it with that, then bring like a different car to the race that looked like exactly the same, but maybe it was that minute difference you were talking about, something like that. And he's listening right now, and I'm probably butchering what he was telling me. And he's like, no, but yeah, it's just that body shape I didn't realize was such an exact thing. It's funny it's come up twice in 2 days.
Well, speaking of Mexicans and being racist, did you see?
I thought we were gonna go with body shape.
We can go with body shaming.
I didn't know if there's an article ready for that, but yeah.
I've got a little bit of both actually. Yeah, let's do the body shaming. It's a little more fun and funny, and then we'll move into the racist Mexicans. This one's pretty fucking hilarious. Trans woman is cleared of flashing her penis at an Ohio YMCA after the judge ruled she's too fat for her genitals to be visible.
I don't know what to do with that headline.
Imagine
being
the judge making this ruling.
I mean, so I kind of like the judge. It seems like a judge is actually like making sense and being fair in the sense that it's like, look, man, you can't see that thing anyhow. You know what I mean? I like that because it seems like he could have charged them with something, just for being naked somewhere. But man, you're allowed to talk about it as a judge. It's not like a lawyer. You're not allowed to go home and like talk about everything, right? Because like patient, doctor privilege, whatever. But like as a judge, so that's a hell of a story, man. How was your day, honey? Well, we had this case. Like a murder or something? No, nothing like that. Oh my God, I don't know.
Is it like an extra jab at this trans person to be like, yeah, I'm gonna let you off just because you're so fat there's no way anybody can see your genitals? Like, not only are you already like,
is this like the stories where they bring race into it where it's not necessary? Because I feel like that's this with the trans. This was like an indecent exposure, but it's not indecent exposure because you couldn't see their junk. Like, does it matter that they're trans, or it's because they were in some offending locker room or something? Is that the reason it matters that they're trans? Or is this just, hey, fat people can't get indecent exposure because you can't see nothing but grossness anyhow?
I don't know. The best reply to this was, I genuinely feel bad for Seth Dillon and the Babylon Bee because they have to compete with reality.
Oh man, that's good.
I don't know, the crazy shit that you find on Twitter from time to time. It's pretty impressive.
That was a big bitch. Well, like there's like regular fat, and then there's that kind of fat. That kind of fat is just something, man.
Yeah.
And I wonder, but not too hard, because I go too far down that rabbit hole thinking about it. But like the mechanics of the life of somebody that fat. I mean,
and different people carry it much differently, and it seems like
pee. Do they need assistance?
And it seems like, generally speaking, men tend to carry it better. So, but in this case, I mean, it's I guess trans female, so whatever. But
whatever you want, it doesn't matter.
Weird.
Nobody's fucking it anyhow.
Oh,
I don't
God.
think it's physically possible. That's what I'm getting at. It's like in Austin Powers 2. You know, no. How could you do it, baby? Austin, it's my job. No. I mean, physically, how could you do it? The sheer mechanics are just mind-boggling. Oh,
We got a guy at work that he is huge, and he is massive, and he carries it really well. And the other day he goes, Justin, they don't believe me that I'm huge. I was like, he said, do you believe it? I was like, the rest of you's huge. Sure, I'll believe it. He was like, I like you. You're all right. Like, I mean, it's
like when you see like it's the most tragic thing when you see a fat chick who doesn't have big boobs. She's like a flat-chested fat chick. It's like, oh man, like at least if like you're fat, you know, at least you get that, right? At least you get a good chance that you get like a decent rack. You know what I mean? So there's dudes who are into that, you know, like cool, man. But yeah, when you see that, it's like, oh, that sucks. So it's like a fat dude. It's like, don't tell me none of that goes to your dick. You know, it's like no, the opposite. Your gut gets fat and takes away dick length. You know. Yeah, I think I mean you see people in the store they're wearing clothes, right? But like you see the thing hanging over their groin, and it's just like, what's going on there? I really get to how does it get to that point? Like there's got to be a day you wake up and go, no more. This ends.
And those are some pretty inspiring stories. You see those
Mm-hmm.
from time to
And
time.
hey, man, I feel for him, like, because it's like I've spent a lot of time, you know, with like addicts and stuff for, you know, drugs. And when you start hearing stories about like people with eating disorders, it's like, well, like that's weird, but like, and when you talk to addicts for like, you know, real, you know, drugs, they're like, yeah, when I go to you go to a recovery place and there's half people there for eating disorders, you know, and it's like you can't wear clothes that talk about food, you know, like you got to be careful how you talk about them or around them. And it's like same thing with like alcoholics. It's like alcohol's everywhere, you know. You can't just get away from your old crew and not be around it anymore. It's everywhere. And then like with food, like you have to eat. So either eating too much or not eating enough, being an eating disorder is a problem. I mean, it's weird. It's easy to be like, oh, that's gay, that's stupid, but it is very prevalent, you know. And I know a few people who struggle with it, and I don't know, man. Just man, what a weird, unfortunate thing to be in, you know. So when somebody is that far gone that they weigh 500 fucking pounds, dude, and they fucking get their shit together and fucking lose it, like that's fucking amazing. Very inspirational.
Corey's making a drug reference there.
You ever suck dick for some fen?
I mean, I guess that would be a low-fat way to get your necessary protein.
Oh, shit.
Get on that weight loss train.
Yeah, rough.
I've never really thought about any of that because I've always been thin and even now at my fattest, I'm like the weight I should be for my height. Like I'm finally about the correct weight at, you know, almost 40. So
I've always been relatively like thin, you know. I always struggle with gaining weight. You know, like if I eat healthy and work out, like I put on weight, but like in a good way. You know what I mean? Like I build muscle. And if I stop, like I'll drop down like 145 if I just eat junk and don't do anything. You know, but if I'm actually eating right and working out and stuff, I can get up to like 155, 160. Probably at 160, maybe close to 165 when I would actually live somewhere that had like a weight bench and shit. Which I'm about to think if there ever was.
I'm currently the biggest I've ever been. I'm about 225, but again, I'm 6'5", so it's not like I'm
fucking big gangly ass motherfucker. God, I used to think I was like kind of tall, and like I guess like most of the people like I encounter, I'm kind of tall, but it's like some of the people I know, maybe people just lie about their height on the internet, but some of the people I know through the internet, like you and such. They make me feel really short.
Trey claims he's 6'3". That's the shortest 6'3" I've ever been around.
Oh man! Oh yeah, you guys got to actually hang out.
Yeah. He does have some big ass feet, but he's not quite 6'3". That
Ronald McDonald looking motherfucker.
People are always like shocked whenever I tell them my son, like how big my son is, because he's 14 and he's about 6'2", and he weighs every bit of 250, and he's got a size. He says he needs a size 14, but size 13 seems to fit. Anyway, he's got some big ass feet too.
He wants to think he needs a size 14.
See, he just recently got on this he needs a size 14 kick, and I think it's because we were working out in the yard and like mowing and weeding and everything, and he was wearing shorts and he didn't want to put on his steel toe work boots, but he didn't have a pair of like yard work shoes here, and I had an extra pair out on the porch. I was like, just put my old ones on, it'll be fine. Ever since then, he's been on this, I need to wear a size 14 kick. I was like, I don't think you need a size 14. You just put my shoes on and thought they were more comfortable, and now you want a size 14.
A little roomier in there.
If he wore shoes that actually, he wears all of those like Vans and Chucks and stuff like that, like shoes that give absolutely no arch support, that don't give your foot any type of like support whatsoever. Those like the shoes the cool shoes that kids wear that are just like worthless cloth with a hard rubber sole and some cool looking laces. Like, I wear shoes that, because I've had arch problems.
You can make excuses.
Yeah.
I need those are skate shoes.
Yeah. And that's the kind of shoes he wears. And I actually wear shoes that are good. Like, they have good arch support. They're well built. Like, when you put them on, your foot is well supported.
You got a shoe on your foot.
Yeah. And I think that's what's getting into him, is he's wearing my shoes and realizing that they feel better because they're actually shoes, not just some cheap piece of shit that costs $120 because it has the Vans logo on it.
My least favorite thing about chicken processing day, I think I'm coming to realize, which is today, and the boots I'm wearing now, they're my big, like my muck boots, because you get wet and everything. The only shoes I can really wear when I do that, keep my feet dry. And I think that it's just wearing those for like 10 hours is really just what beats me up the fucking most. I should probably look into a better shoe. You know what I should do is I should go start looking at chef shoes like I used to wear when I washed dishes. I think my feet still got wet. I could probably find something more comfortable. Oh, say it. Sorry, I'm on my phone today.
Carlos said his wife's cousin asked if he was 6 foot because of his walking confidence level. So now when someone asks how tall he is, he says 6'5". Corey says it's some boomer shit, flexing on my insole.
We had enough shoe talk.
I was like, we've talked about sports and shoes. We've been all over the place today. I do actually have some of those. So I have what's called flexible flat foot. Like where your arch is. There's like a little tendon that runs through there that actually like forms the arch and keeps your foot up. And I don't have that. I just don't have it. It's they said sometimes for people who are, speaking of fat stuff, for people who are like excessively fat, like 400 or 500 pounds, sometimes it'll like stretch out or blow out, and then they'll end up with flat feet. He said, but
yikes.
Based on my size and the fact that I've been athletic for pretty much all my life, he said, more likely than not, you were just born without it. And now you've reached the age where it hurts to walk because of it. I'm like, thanks, then. Tell me I'm getting old without telling me I'm getting old. But anyway, I had to have some like really nice custom insoles made that cost me like $400 fucking dollars. And oh my God, it's the most amazing thing I've ever had. Like,
You do like them though, because we have the commercials for like the Good Feet store around us, and we were just curious, and like we Googled it, and there's a bunch of people like, oh, it's a scam. They just want to charge you hundreds of dollars to make custom insoles. And I'm like, well, if that's what you need, it doesn't sound like a scam. It sounds like we're providing you with a service, you know. But I don't know how much it's supposed to cost, or you know, if it. Like if I knew it'd make a difference, it'd be worth it, right? Like just to make my feet feel better.
Before I got them made, I would go play basketball on Saturday mornings, and we'd play at 7:00. And we'd play for a couple hours, and so by the time I get home, take a shower and everything, I wouldn't be able to walk. Like that was it. I was done. I would come home, take a shower, sit down in my recliner, that recliner right there, and that was it. Like I would sit for the rest of the day because I physically could not stand up. My feet hurt so bad. And after I got those things and like got comfortable wearing them and got used to them, it's been 5 years. I don't have problems at all anymore. I can run. I can play basketball. I can run a push mower and work in the yard and in the garden and run the tiller and everything all day long. Perfectly fine. No. I don't have any feet problems anymore. So yeah, I'll swear by that shit. Like if you're having like lower back or leg problems or feet problems, go get your feet checked out and get some custom insoles. It's 100% worth the
lined
money.
up. Is the evolutionary reason for the arch? This is what they say in the commercials for arch supports anyhow. Is the arch is the strongest structure known to man or some shit like that. I don't know if it's true, but that'd have to be my guess for the evolutionary reason. But it's funny because I look at things like, just anything like if you've ever been to like the bodies exhibit, like just like an ankle, like there's like 17 bones in there, and just like it all
force that's exerted on it. It's just crazy. And then I look at
like dog paws, and they're just these little sticks with pads on the end, and they get around. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just amazing that animals and people function. Like I don't know. Blows my mind. Did any of that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, Carlos asked the same question you are, and I have no idea what the evolutionary purpose of the arch is.
Yeah, and I was noting on his thing. Maybe just,
I don't know.
however,
I'd have to look that up. Do other animals have an arch? Yeah, I know obviously like most quadrupeds.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah, animals, they're on 4 feet, like dogs and stuff. They've got sticks, And then let's say chickens, they have like, I don't know, there's a whole other thing going on there. That's a whole other thing.
Well, and like, do other primates have arches? Looking at like gorilla feet, thinking about that. They do.
They don't walk like as much as we do. Like none of even like the bipedal like apes, they still use four limbs to get around for the most part. And they don't just get up and walk on their hind legs for miles at a time like we do. I think we're pretty unique. Other than like kangaroos, I can't think of anything else and birds that just stays on its hind, legs all day. Some birds, obviously, the flightless ones.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. We'll have to do some research into that.
Foot talk, not even sexual.
Save the
the morning after.
We'll save the fetish shit for Friday. That's our Friday shtick.
Oh fuck.
All right, I guess it's time to get into the serious topics of the weekend. The white supremacist that did a mass shooting in Texas, but ended up not actually being white. He's Hispanic. Did you see? There was also another white supremacist that mowed down a bunch of white people in a crowd with a vehicle, who was also not white, and everybody that he mowed down was white. That's like the worst white supremacist ever. All he did was kill white people. They they're really pushing hard to make everything white supremacy.
Yeah, I said something about that to a friend this last weekend. She's like, "Oh, so you're telling me you've never been treated better because you were white?" And I'm like, "Probably." I'm like, "But like at some point in time, yes." But it's like, oh, so that proves it. Like you can come up with some instance of everything. Yeah, and I've probably been treated more poorly because I was white at some point in my life too. Like what's your fucking point, man?
I mean, Mark and I went on Carlos's show and did a whole episode talking about how poorly we were treated as white basketball players. There are circumstances where that's. I mean, think about it this way: if I came to you and said I was going to mow your yard and take care of your trim your hedges and do all that stuff, or some Mexican guy came up and said he was going to do the same thing, who are you going to hire? Probably not me.
I would expect to get more bang for my buck from the Mexican feller.
Exactly. See?
Yeah.
This whole privilege goes both ways in every direction. Just depends on what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yep. So everything's white supremacist. It happened. Well, I don't know. I didn't pay attention to any news this weekend.
I know. I didn't really either. I had to go back to work last night. My dumbass volunteered to work 2 days of overtime this week, which on the one hand is nice. It's for those of us on salary, they pay us $250 per shift that we work outside of our normal shift. But at the same time, that means I'm working 6 straight days when I'm normally working 4. So as if I didn't get little enough sleep working 4 12-hour shifts at night, this week I'm going to do 6 of them. So I'll be
cool.
Fucking grouchy by Friday. Yeah. So all I really did this weekend, I tilled the garden on Saturday, and I took naps around tilling the garden. and
nice.
We went to church yesterday, and I took naps around going to church yesterday. Like all I did was like sleep and go do very specific things that needed to be done. Because I was just trying to
two things that make me tired. It's tilling and church. So I feel you. Yeah.
Do you use the so do you have a front tine or a rear tine?
I don't. So the tilling that I've done for the most part has been with small, awful front tine tillers. My uncle has gifted me what is supposedly a nice rear tine tiller, but I have yet to go pick it up because it's a couple hours away, and he had a lung transplant, so he's been out of the game for a couple months, but working on it. I'm going and getting it. But a rear tine, I assume I get much more till and get beat up quite a bit less. Using the front tine tiller is kind of like riding a fucking bull, it feels like. You know what I mean? Like you're really fucking like I mean you're working that fucking thing. What about you?
So Stephanie's granddad had an old old front tine that it wasn't terrible, but it was still pretty hardcore. It's currently not functional. I got to take some stuff apart on it and figure out why the fuck it's not getting I don't think like we replaced the spark plug last year, so it shouldn't be the spark plug, but I got to take it apart and figure out why it's not getting fire. Anyway, our neighbor over here, he's got a really nice, like big, heavy duty front tine. Oh my God, that thing drug me around that garden. And then also I had to drag it around the garden to get everything to like clods broken up and everything. And I was, by the time I got done, I couldn't raise my arms past about right here. I was like, this is it. I'm like, can you help me get my shirt off?
I'm sitting here looking at a freshly disc field.
That's one of my favorite smells.
I watched the dude do. Well, I was processing birds a couple weeks ago. In a tractor, of course, and I mean in like an hour and a half. Like I had this whole, it's like 4 acres disc, I was like, oh man, it really makes it look easy when you have a, $150,000 worth of machinery pulling that shit around.
I think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna save up, and for next year, since most of the like around the house projects are pretty well done, all the appliances and the air conditioning unit and the windows, like all the big stuff that we're going to spend a lot of money on with fixing these houses up is pretty well taken care of. I think I'm gonna set money aside and get a nice rear tine. That way I can really do the garden right next year. Because like the one that he has, it did good, and then I've got like a little small rear tine that's just a cultivator. It's good for really softening stuff up, and I'll get it. It rained all day yesterday, so once things dry back out, I'll get that out and really go through and get it all cleaned up and really nice and have the garden ready to go. But I think I'm gonna save up next year. I'm just gonna get a nice rear tine and do it right and not kill myself and my arms. As we talked about before, I'm reaching the age where I don't need to be putting my body through any more trauma than what I already have for these last 40 years.
Is that just your MO? You till the garden every year?
Yeah.
That's the way you do it? Do what works for you. I'm not talking shit here or anything. I like tilling like the first time. You know what I mean? Or like if it's been I just haven't grown there for years and it's been completely retaken. I'll till. Otherwise, I try to avoid it, soil structure and shit. So what I like to do is, and again, I till, but just what I like to do otherwise though is I take the black plastic woven ground cover, and I'll mow, and then I'll put that ground cover down, boom, 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 a few pieces, and throw some weights on it, a couple of fabric staples, put it in there, and let it sit for a month or two, and then pull it up, and everything's just dead. It just kills everything under it without disturbing the soil so much, and that works pretty good, and that saves a bit of labor versus breaking out the little fucking tiller. But if you have a nice tiller, then it would make that a lot easier. And they're just great to have, man. Because fuck, dude, sometimes you just want to till it. If it's just filled up with grass, especially we have a lot of the grass that spreads via rhizomes, crawls or it shoots out runners. So it's you try to get a tool in there and it just grabs it and just pulls it in. So it's yeah, man. Sometimes it's all right. Let's break out the petrol. Sure.
Yeah, we've got a lot of that kind of grass here too, and that's a big part of why I till. At our old house before we moved, I did ground covers and stuff on all of that. At the end of the season, I would go out and I'd take the little cultivator and I'd just bust everything up real good, and then I'd cover it and leave it for the winter, come back in the spring, uncover everything, and then start getting it ready. But here we haven't had a chance to really get this garden. Last year we tried to get a good start on a garden, and with everything else we were doing, between just the fact that we had just moved, I was working on the house all the time. Stephanie had just started a new job, trying to figure out schedules with the kids and everything, and we weren't really in a good spot to dedicate as much time to the garden as what we normally would have. So we didn't get a very good start with it. So that was a big part of why I just went out and chopped the whole fucking thing up. And I also I really love the smell of fresh turned dirt. That gets me going.
Yeah, that good earth smell. That's something primal about it for sure. People, you don't need to go to a soil biology class to know when you see good dirt. You know what I mean? You can feel it and smell it, and you look at it and go, "Oh fuck, that just looks like good dirt right there." It's something. I think it's therapeutic, and I think everybody should do some sort of gardening, or even if it's an herb garden or something. Hey, babe.
My kids think I'm weird as shit because if we're driving somewhere and we drive by a field where they're out there with the disc, I'll slow down and roll the windows down and catch a big whiff of it. Or they really think I'm weird. When they're putting chicken shit out, this is in the early spring is the time of year where they put chicken shit out for fertilizer to start getting fields ready and stuff. I like that smell. Like it's not a good smell, but it's like it's a farm smell. Like it's more the nostalgia than the I like the
Yeah.
I don't care for the aroma of it, but when I smell it, it just brings back all the like being on the farm.
You know what a big one for me is if you ask me, do eggs have a smell? I'm gonna like just eggs. I'm gonna be like, no. But something about eggs in hay in a nest box, and maybe it's the mix of that, maybe a little bit of poo smell in the background, you know, if you're in the coop. But that gathering the eggs has a smell, and that is just takes me back to being like 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Like that one is burned deeply in me. And it's hard. It's something about like you smell a dozen eggs and you don't get anything, but when they're freshly laid in that nest box, there's a fucking smell, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
Could you imagine losing your sense of smell? Like
Smell is like, and I've been thinking a lot about this lately. Like most senses are kind of magical if you really think about it, but something about smell is almost like a magical spidey sense, right? You can walk in a room, 10 minutes after somebody left and go, like somebody was here. You can. My dog can trace everywhere a rabbit went last night when we come out in the morning. Puts his nose to the ground and does it. There's just something. It's almost like a mystical sense. It's a sense. In the most like mystical sense of the word sense. It's I don't know, man. And then you think about losing smell, and it's like, man, it doesn't seem like a big important sense out of like the 5 or 6 or whatever we have, right? But fuck, man, it is.
Well, and a lot of your sense of taste is based on smell as well. Like I remember early on in COVID when like people were losing their sense of taste on stuff. It was like that's because they lost their sense of smell. I remember when I had COVID the first time, OG COVID, back before it was popular to have it.
Before it was cool.
Yeah, back before it was cool.
Hipster COVID.
I had Stephanie bring me home some. So I love beef lo mein, and so I had her bring me home some beef lo mein, and because I couldn't really I didn't feel like eating anything. I definitely didn't feel like eating anything solid. So I was like, bring me some noodles from the Chinese place. Like they have the Chinese place down the road has the best noodles. I was like, bring me a thing of that. Like it'll be great. Oh, it tasted like ash. It was terrible. I couldn't eat it. And then when we both had COVID last summer, bacon had a funny taste for a while. Like certain meat, it was bacon and something else. It tasted funny. Like it didn't taste bad enough that I was going to stop eating it. Like it just tasted different, and it was weird. And fortunately, it went away, and I don't have that problem. Like I'd have had to figure out how I was going to power through eating funny tasting bacon for the rest of my life because I wasn't about to stop. But yeah,
I guess it's maple glazed bacon only from now on.
having your sense of smell and sense of taste fucked with it's kind of
Well, I mean, before I take a sip of anything, like I smell it. Like, like there's like functional primal, you know what I mean? I'm making sure I know what I'm about to drink. Like make sure it's not bad, when I open a package of meat to cook it, it's a big old sniff test, you know what I mean? You can just tell so much about an item by this. And I know that it works. The little particles supposedly float up in your nose, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, it just seems so magical. Like you're just, fucking spidey sense. It's something, I don't know. It's fucking crazy. And but I mean, you can just, for survival, you can tell so much. And our noses are so weak compared to like animals. Like our noses really suck. Like imagine like my hound dog, like that poor guy's a slave to his fucking nose.
Stephanie made fun of me the other night because I mixed myself a drink and took a big whiff of it before I took a sip. She's like, "Did you just sniff that?" It's like, "Yeah, I want to make sure I got the mixture right." Like you should be able to smell if you mixed it properly. Like, are there people who don't like just smell everything? I don't know. That comes across as weird to me. I guess it's like the thing that like, what was it? Only 30 to 50% of people have an inner monologue. It's like, You mean you don't just like narrate your own day in your head all the time? Like, what's going on? You just don't have thoughts? I don't.
You're not that constant negative voice that argues with you about every little thing that you do. How else do you know if you're doing things right? If you're not if you have a voice constantly criticizing yourself, or is that one just me?
I mean, I have
Yours
to
is
talk to
constantly congratulating yourself. That's the difference between our monologues.
I have to talk to myself because I need to at least interact with one smart person during the day.
Yeah, everyone else is so fucking retarded.
Oh, so close.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.